Yeah. And how do you see the color versus leg? The color is, you kind of get a little bit how much the animal is moving, but not very specific positions or something. Of course, it's easier to measure from the color. They have a color, and you just
Yeah,
basically have it. What's your thought on the color versus leg? Is it like for the large scale things you use the color and then leg for something, or what do you think?
the true positive and false negatives are much higher in the collar sensor. Because when you put an accelerometer in the collar in the neck of the cows, they bend down, drink water, they feed. Even when they're sitting and lying down and resting, they kind of move. The mosquito sits here, flies sit, they go there. Yeah.
Mm,
Then it will record over, curve is moving, curve is moving. It's not real movement. They just move their head here and there.
mm.
So the lots of false positive, false negative data is collected. We don't know how, and then because there is no video or data is collected to annotate, to correlate, it's just a bunch of date and timestamp and lots of activity data. Sometimes it doesn't, it's really hard to know what exactly is going on. So if the leg, at least we know they are sitting, standing, walking, and a variety of activity indices. So from that context, leg-based accelerometer sensors provide a bit more information. But the main idea behind collar is the neck sensor is kind of close to the chewing, the snout region of the cow. So the rumination happens when they constantly feeding, and the food goes, and then they come back, belch it, and then it goes back. So there are additional characteristics, features we could extract. So from that context, they put it. Sometimes they also try to measure, is it the right jaw is more compared to the left jaw? What type of the chewing activity happens? Based on that, they try to assess, kind of extrapolate, and then additional extrapolation, then making big bold statements. So it tends to you have to be very careful in terms of making a scientific statement. So lots of correlation, validation, checking has to happen. So sometimes the true, the false positive, true negatives can provide misleading information. So one has to be very, very careful in what kind of assessments we are going to make based on the data analytics.
Yeah, that really makes sense. And if I go a little bit backwards, you were saying about the sampling frequency, that how often you have a sample, and you said that sometimes it might be even enough that you have one sample per minute. And then, for example, our sense sensor, it can go 12.5 hertz or 25 hertz. So you said that higher the frequency, the better. How high do you need, for example, for cows when it's on the leg? What's the kind of what's enough, and after that, what is just redundant, large amount of data?
But as of now, generally speaking, it doesn't have to be extraordinarily superior in terms of the resolution. But things are evolving. Down the road, we are looking at developing a high throughput phenotyping systems, for example, to be able to develop new breeding of cows in Holstein alone. And of course, in Jersey and other breeds, we are looking at we call as resilience. When the cows goes to a certain sickness, either mastitis or lameness or specific sickness, how quickly they can recover, what are the traits and genomic markers that are connected to it. So when we look from that context, the higher the resolution, the better. So because there are lots of information buried between in the moment to moment data, like every second or every 5 seconds of data, lots of interesting information. And that gives new critical insights for developing these traits and breeding values and so on and so forth. But for routine on-farm daily operations management, just to have an eye on the health of the cows, how they are milking, are they feeling happy, then we can have like maybe every few minutes of data, every 2 or every 3 minutes of data is more than enough.
Mm. All right, sounds good. And you've been developing this analysis, and what's the what's kind of the end goal? Do you see this being used in the actual farms? Are you thinking of scaling this? Where are you aiming in the larger vision of this?
So, as an academician, university professor, our goal is to meet the industry needs, meet the farmers' needs. But the primary goal is how do I improve the quality of life, enrich the quality of life of the farmers? So, kind of three different angles. So, in the long term, of course, we want, because the World Organization for Animal Health, WHO, we call them as so WOWA or WO. So they have a very strong mandate that, hey, you need to, because of the lessons we have learned from the COVID for humans and also the zoonotic potential. Sometimes the disease from chickens and farm animals, such as cows and others, can jump to humans. So we can acquire diseases. There is a definitive need for real time, continuous monitoring of the health of the farm animals via data collecting devices. So yes, we have to continuously collect data. The data collecting devices should have the possibility to transmit and transfer the data in real time or in near real time, so that the decision can be made by veterinarians, policymakers, farmers, government agencies, watchdogs, and other organizations. So the automation, digitalization is already happening, but it will boom, it will form and come in different threads via multiple pathways.
Yeah, so sounds interesting. You mentioned the zoonotic diseases, and I think the bird flu, even though it has the word bird, I think it's now in the cows, in especially in US. I don't know how is the situation in Canada.
If you count humans, much there is one or two humans have be acquired disease from that. It's a bit of zoonotic issues.
Yeah, yeah, but you could then basically be continuously monitoring and maybe noticing which animals are sick and maybe isolate those and improve the pandemic situation or not getting pandemic of the bird flu.
Yeah. Yeah. So we call this as B4A, biosensors for agri defense. How do we secure the agricultural sector using instrumentation, digitalization, artificial intelligence, and other data collection possibilities?
Mm. Yeah, sounds important and interesting. And are you already doing the algorithms to detect the disease that the sick cows? Do you already have done this?
Yeah, yeah. So we have developed many, like in the past couple of years, we have been working along those lines. Lots of algorithms we have been applying for mastitis, lameness detection, even the Fibion sensor. Currently, I'm revising the paper manuscript given by my students. So hopefully, in the next 2 weeks, we'll be able to submit it. I will post a preprint and then share the preprint with you, so you'll have an idea of what kind of data and associated although the paper will be under the review process. Because I have a research chair position and the chair title is Digital Livestock Farming. So naturally, we look for variety of algorithms. We do develop algorithms for variety of diseases and welfare indicators.
Yeah. Yeah. And maybe you have been in many countries and you probably have good networks. Are you looking for some collaborations? Yeah. Are you looking for some kind of collaboration from somewhere in the world? What's kind of what are you looking for? Or do you have a team that works perfectly now?
Oh, yeah, of course. We're always looking for collaborators. We embrace, with open arms, all kinds of collaborations. We have something going on with France, Netherlands, Germany, United States, some from Asian countries, all kinds of stakeholders, industry stakeholders, NGO, non-government, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Yeah. So we do reach out to work with many partners across the globe.
And you've been developing these models that can be used to detect. Do you need some institutes to do measurements and then kind of test these models on a new data, maybe in a different place, or what kind of collaborations you would be interested in?
Yes and no. So here in North America and Europe, we have a specific climatic zones and specific conditions. We do that. But if some of these technologies has to be translated to Africa or in India, the conditions are entirely different. It's primarily geared towards low resources technologies, although the people there are a bit more advanced in terms of handling the people. It has to cater to the context and the needs of the local community and the system we are looking at. Yes, so it would be nice if we can. So people, when they reach out, we find out what is the value we can add based on our learnings, based on the past experiences. So we do work with IDRC type projects, International Development Research Council, Research Fund related. We also work with industries, even within Canada alone. When we look at it, we are based in Atlantic Canada, but when we go to Alberta or Saskatoon, and the things changes in terms of climate, in terms of the certain nuances associated to it. So fine optimization has to happen in terms of data collection and applications. We also look at those nuances as well.
Yeah, yeah. Sounds interesting, and very nice research and very advanced things you are doing. And maybe a few questions about the sense you've been using now. What do you see as the main advantages? You already covered some of the things, the small device and the wireless transfer. What do you see as the other strengths, and is there things that you would like to see improved?
So again, with the farm animal applications, the lightweight is fantastic. The ability for real-time data transfer capability is very nice. The battery life could be a bit more longer. Maybe again, we add a bit more weight to the device if we go that route. And so it's always a trade-off. The ruggedness because of the harsh environmental conditions. Sometimes they tend to, hit certain, when they walk around, they tend to hit their legs. So their devices tend to get broken very easily. So a bit more ruggedness, but if that's the case, then it will add more because the packaging changes, the thickness of the plastic changes. It may interfere with the ability to transmit the Bluetooth on weight, mass of the devices. So these are some of the design considerations one has to consider during the manufacturing of the elements. So it's always a trade-off. So there is really no one size fits all. It always depends on the context, the unique needs of the end use applications. Uh, yeah.
And now we can go about 5 months of measurement at 12.5 hertz. So of course, if you go down in the sampling frequency, you could extend the battery life. Where do you see the sweet spot for your applications? For example, with the cow, where would you go with the sampling in consideration with the battery life?
So the collar based sensors, they are there for about almost 8 months, a year, sometimes a year.
Yeah,
Because it's very bulky too. It's really heavy. It's like almost 150 to 180 grams. Really heavy,
yeah.
like a small brick. So they can last longer. But so again, the two ways we can look at it. One is it for experimental scientific research, where we are collecting data and using the data for building decision support systems and platforms for the farmers? Second thing is it a real-time continuous monitoring for long-term application? Are we going to put that sensor and leave it there for many months, and then we collect once a while data to have an eye to just to make sure that things are okay? So from these two angles, if it's for the long term, then of course the battery would be better. But again, if it's for long term, we'd have to increase the size of the sensor, more ruggedness, ability to withstand harsh changing climates. Because here in Canada, similar to Finland, the temperature drops really low, 55 degrees Celsius, 30 degrees Celsius, minus 30, minus 25 degrees Celsius. Just like that. Again, the cows are not air conditioned. Although they are indoor, the windows are always open. So the cool breeze, they can come inside. They are housed in the range, they prefer like 10 to 12 degrees Celsius. Cooler is better for them. Get hot, we have fans, but some of the farms, they don't have fans in the bones. So we have to consider that aspect. Is it for longer term routine monitoring and surveillance of the cow health? Or are we looking at using the device for scientific experimental and research that would enable additional decision support development? So these two questions would decide and call for what is the resolution, what kind of battery life, what kind of design considerations we go for.
Mhm. Yeah. So depending on the use case, what is needed. Yeah. So thank you. This has been very interesting discussion. Lot of things to learn, and it's interesting if our listeners think that some of these could be tried to applied in humans with the models and so on. So thank you a lot, Suresh, for taking the time for this nice chat.
Thank you, Ollie. It's really nice to chat about what we do and share with the rest of the community.
Yeah, thank you.